So in this demo I'd like to show four basic features of county survey records. First, we'll use an intersection to get to a map sector so that we can get to all the underlying information about that map sector. Then I'll show the project check sheets and how they can be maintained by the users themselves. Go into the remonumentation functionality a little bit, and finally show you a ad hoc query using Lincoln View. Ad hoc spatial query, that is. So here's the main menu. I've logged in, and this is the research index. There's a number of different ways they can get to information, and for this first demo I'm going to use the intersection. So I know Wayne County Register of Deeds is located on Monroe in Detroit. So I'm going to select Monroe, and then if I double click, it brings up only the streets that intersect Monroe. Randolph, I know Monroe and Randolph is where the Register of Deeds is located, so I'm going to open up Lincoln View to see what map sector that intersection is contained in. So right now what's happening is Forms 11G, called Lincoln View, passed it that information, so that now we can, in Lincoln View, open up the particular CAD file at that particular intersection, and you can see that little magenta circle is our intersection just south of this little loop. Now Lincoln View has a feature, it'll remember the maps that I had open last if I tell it to. So that's handy if I do repetitive work. It doesn't I don't have to go open up the maps every time. So I'm just going to say, yeah, remember, open up the maps I had open last, because I was working the map sectors, and I can see that this intersection here just south of this little loop is contained in map sector 455. So if I click on map sector 455, I can now use the map to go back to the database. I use the database to get to the map on the intersection. Now I'm using the map to get back to the database so that I can get the information about that map sector. Now you can see we've got a number of maps here. We have a linen drawing from 1954, a tax map from 1990, and I can open it up simply by clicking on the myriad button. Maybe I want to take a look at that linen drawing from 1954. Here's gray book pages from 1927 related to that area. I even have a U.S. quad. So anything you want to attach, and then we have the ability, if you want, you can filter this. Say you just want to see tax maps, you can uncheck what you don't want to see. The other thing is, if I wanted to check one of these out to the desktop instead, say I want to use it, if I had been granted access, I could just check it out to the desktop. So let me, or check it out to anywhere I want. I'm going to put it on my desktop so that you can see it. Here it is, just showed up. So I would have to have a tool that reads that format, which I don't have on my computer at present, but it's that easy. So now we want to look at the subdivision index. If I click on this button, it brings up the subdivisions in that map sector. And if I want, I can just come up here and hit count hits, and it'll tell me there are 84 subdivisions in that one small area. And I could zoom in and take a look at the full caption or any of the information about that. I could take a look and see if we have any map drawings associated with that subdivision just as easily as I did the map sector. And likewise, if I wanted to, I could check this out if I had authorization. Or I could print it out to a report. So that's basically using county survey records, using an address, an intersection, a street name to get to and locate a map sector so that you can get to the related maps and subdivisions and drawings and documents. Now let's take a look at the project check sheets. So if we go into plat engineering, first I'm going to show you how they would set them up. So here's the templates. We have a blank plat check sheet. Here's the sequence that we want these to appear, and this can activate or deactivate. They can add or remove. Here's a condo short template. Here's the long template. Here's the etc. So what happens is they set that up so that when they go in and they create a project, so let's go look at this one. This one's open. Let's view. He's already, in this case, created a condo check sheet. It used that template that was active at the time when he creates it to build the check sheet. So over time, they can maintain their own check sheets as the requirements change. They don't need to come to the developers and have us change the report. It still prints out in a standard report. This is the main product that they give their customer. So it's a work in progress until it's all finalized. They can show the comments that they need to work on. This is the stipulation or item description that they need to adhere to get approvals. You can see here some of these still haven't been signed off. So this is their condo check sheet process. Again, the whole purpose is to allow them to manage the approval process as these condominiums and subdivisions have to adhere to certain criteria. They can manage that themselves, what the criteria is. So that gets us through project check sheets. Let's take a look at the remonumentation menu. So the state corners can all be viewed, and there's information that all can be queried, and we can look at it in the state format if we want. So here's the state form. If we look at one of these that's pretty complete, we have the longitude and latitude in degrees, minutes, and seconds, and in decimal, and in NAD 83 international feet, and NAD 83 meters, and in NAD 27, and NAD 27 meters. And this is helpful for surveyors because depending upon what instruments they're looking at, they may need to convert their coordinates. So we've done it here for them. This is also tracking where that corner's at in its peer review, whether it's been monumented, has the research been completed, etc. And then we can go to Lincoln View and actually take a look at that. Let's zoom out. So we can see this is in 4 south, 11 east. I'm going to turn off my streets so we can see it a little better. And I'm just going to look at one of these other corners here. So Wilkerson, he did a corner. Frost did a corner. Wilkerson did a couple of corners. Let's see how many in this area Wilkerson happened to do. And we can place a fence. We can place a radius. There's a number of ways we can do this. I'm just going to place a fence here, and I'm going to go do a find data by query. And this is allowing me to do an ad hoc query based upon how Lincoln View works. It links at the database level, and we define a feature basically which correlates to a table. So we have a land corners feature, which in this case correlates to a land corners table, and I'm going to go, this is all of the columns that are in that table, and I want to find out Wilkerson. If there's any other corners that Mr. Wilkerson has done, and we can see he's done quite a few here. So let me color those all in red, for example. Or let's keep it magenta. So it looks like if we want to get some information, I shouldn't have done magenta because now I can't tell what color. But sure enough, there's Mr. Wilkerson again. So you can do that for any type of feature, for any kind of information in the database. And of course you can create and save those queries so that they're reusable, so you don't have to do an ad hoc query every time. And that's basically it for this demo. We've gone through and shown Lincoln View, how to get to a map sector from an address. We've shown some of the project check sheet functionality, how it relates with reports, the monuments and corners, and finally I did a spatial query. Thank you for your attention.